Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Real friends, real situations, real life. Authentic chats from the heart to the gut. Two best friends keeping it raw, real, and relatable.
Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Jodi and Michal, where we have real conversations from the heart to the gut. I'm Jodi Greenblatt. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist turned relationship and empowerment coach for women, working in particular with supporting women who have been in toxic relationships so that they can navigate dating more confidently and attract healthy love. Michal, my good friend from childhood, tell us about you. Hi.
Well, hi everybody, and Jodi, always good to see you. This is our best way to visit. I think we started a podcast so that we could visit more because we've always had great conversations. So my name is Michal. I am a nutrition consultant. I create customized lifestyle and nutrition programs for people and for groups to support them in optimizing their health or overcoming some health challenges. And today, you and I were speaking a little bit before, and we've spoken a lot about the counseling world in our previous podcasts and a lot of relationship stuff and what Jodi does. And we've spoken a little bit about what I do from the nutrition perspective, but we haven't really spoken about functional medicine, which is the world that I live in. So we thought perhaps it might interest some people. And if not, you can let us know and we can never talk about it again. But Jodi thought it would interest her. And for me, it's always an interesting topic because it's a different paradigm. So I'll start, if I may, by asking Jodi a question. And we've really never had this conversation before. So this is raw and real. Jodi, have you ever heard of functional medicine?
So I tell you, I'm so excited that we are talking about this because I want to hear about functional medicine. I've heard the word. You and I had a brief conversation about it a few weeks ago when I had like just routine blood work done. And so you were just like giving me information, educating me a little bit. But truly, I can't say I truly understand what functional medicine is. So when you said, how about we talk about functional medicine? I'm really interested because I want to know and I will ask my questions.
Fabulous. I'm looking forward to it. So for most of us, and I would think that most of the people listening are our generation-ish, even a little older or a little younger. The only medicine that and you're probably thinking functional medicine, like whatever. But the only type of medicine we've ever been exposed to really is what I will call allopathic or Western medicine. You might have been exposed to Chinese medicine a little bit, or some alternative things like a naturopath, which is kind of sort of like regular medicine, but they use more natural products, or a homeopath, same idea. But from a paradigm perspective, generally you have a symptom, whatever that symptom might be. You go and see a medical professional. The medical professional evaluates the symptom, and for the most part, right, will medicate you to relieve the symptom. So if you think about it on a very, very simple level, I have a headache. I come and see you, my doctor. I say, I have this headache. Where is the headache? Here it is. Maybe I need some blood work for the headache, maybe not, depending. But you know what? Here's some pain medication to help you deal with your headache. And I take the pain medication and the headache goes away. And then I don't take the medication, and a few weeks later, the headache comes back. I go back to the doctor and I say, hey, you know what? This headache keeps coming back. All right, maybe we investigate a little bit. We find, that maybe there's a lump on your head because you hit your head a while. Something's gone on, and we might change the medication. Maybe you have high blood pressure. That's causing you to have a headache. We test that and you have that. Oh, okay. High blood pressure causes headaches. Let's give you a medication to bring down your blood pressure. But what nobody's looking at is, why did your blood pressure get high in the first place? Right? And so functional medicine starts with the premise that your body is very capable of functioning perfectly normally. That's how we are made. And there are issues that happen within our lives that cause an imbalance or a dysfunction in the body. And we will see that as a symptom of some type. Now, allopathic or Western medicine is unbelievably brilliant and amazing. So I'm not knocking it at all, especially when it comes to dealing with acute conditions. Acute means like a cold that you catch, or a virus that you catch, or you've sliced your arm open and you need some stitches.
Mm-hmm.
Need an antibiotic, or something's going on that there's a direct cause, there's a
Yeah.
direct issue, and it can be solved. The drug can solve the issue. So if you have a cold from a bacteria, or you have an infection from a bacteria, we can use an antibiotic to kill the bacteria, and we deal
Mm-hmm.
with the cold. The
Because
problem
that's addressing the cause. That's addressing the
cause, but the cause is very direct,
mm-hmm.
right? There's a distinct, this caused this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this caused this caused this caused this, or this and this and this and this caused this.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a bacterial infection, it might be caused by a few different bacteria, and they can test for that and give you different antibiotics.
Yeah.
But it's
And with the
caused by
other,
bacteria.
right. So the cause is known and you can treat it right away. And the other examples you gave with the headache and the blood pressure, it sounds like you're saying there we're treating the symptom, but not the underlying cause.
Exactly. So, where functional medicine shines is with a chronic condition. So I often describe that as something you don't catch. You don't catch high blood pressure. You don't catch cardiovascular disease or Alzheimer's. You don't catch obesity. Well, some research says you do. Like if you hang out with people who are obese, you are more likely to be obese.
But there's going to be other variables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just my joke.
Yeah.
Bad joke, but that was just my joke. But these are diseases you don't catch. So why do we develop them? They tend to be lifestyle-based diseases. Now, when was the last time you went to see your doctor and your doctor tried to, in an active way, change your diet or your lifestyle?
Oh, no. But if you're asking me, though, I'm probably not a good example
Yeah, but
because
anybody, I'm asking the audience because, you'll go, the doctor will say, you need to lose weight. Here's the food guide, lose some weight. Or
yeah,
be a
100%.
dietitian, lose some
100%.
weight. Or you need to sleep better. Here's a sleeping pill. Or you need to exercise more. But like it's a statement. There's no support, and it's a statement to move on. You need to lose weight. Well, how do I lose weight? Eat less, exercise more. All right. Concept is simple, but how do I do that?
Yeah. The how
Well,
is
they don't deal with it at all. Like,
uh,
and why would losing weight affect anything? And how often do they even say that to you? Oh, you're a little bit overweight, but don't worry about it. Right? You'll hear that a lot. Anyway, functional medicine really shines in these diseases that you don't catch. So chronic illness. And as I said, these develop over a lifetime, and they develop because of the lifestyle that we lead, the environment that we live in, and the diet that we follow. So it's how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, how you manage stress, the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, the stuff that's on your skin, the stuff that you're exposed to every single day, right? Somebody who works in a chemical factory is going to have a lot more exposure to things that are harmful to them than somebody who lives on the beach somewhere, that's a deserted island. So then you have some genetic predispositions as well. And one of the things that I think people assume is that your genes are your destiny, right? I'm fat because I have fat genes.
So that's not the case.
No. Genes are more, if you think of them like a dimmer switch, right? So most of us have dimmer switches, or we've seen dimmer switches in rooms in our houses, right? And a gene will say, I have the ability to shine brightly or shine not brightly. And your lifestyle is actually what raises and lowers the intensity of the light.
When you say lifestyle, do you also mean Environment, do you also
Everything
mean?
that I just spoke about.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
everything about that will
Yeah.
determine how your gene is expressed. Another way to look at it is they can say that the gene will load the gun, but
Mm.
it's your lifestyle, your environment that will pull the trigger.
Like a
So
predisposition, but it can
yeah,
but it can manifest differently.
yes.
Mm.
So, and they've done studies on identical twins, and they've actually, because those are the only ways that we can see people who
Mm-hmm.
are absolutely identical. And
Yeah.
yeah, lifestyle exposure, even stress can make a huge, like our emotional state, our childhood, what happened in our childhood. You and I
Yeah.
have spoken about how trauma impacts you in adulthood.
Yeah.
Trauma impacts your health.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these things that I'm speaking about, I could almost guarantee that most people who've gone to their doctor have never discussed any of this.
Why
Doctors,
do you think that is?
because the allopathic model, the Western medicine model is, and this is the paradigm, you have a symptom,
Mm-hmm.
you medicate the symptom away.
Mm-hmm.
That's the paradigm.
Why do you think if a doctor tells a patient you need to exercise more, you need to lose weight, why do you think they're not going that step further of the how to do it?
They're not taught that. There's no education. A doctor who goes to medical school is lucky if they receive 2 or 3 weeks worth of nutrition education. And
Mm-hmm.
what they're given is the food guide or the food pyramid or the my plate or whatever it might be, which is not a health document. And that's a whole other conversation that we can have another day.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know it's not the healthiest way to eat. We know this, but that's all doctors are taught. So they have no education in it. And they have to learn a lot, right? Doctors are learning
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I am
add
sitting here
that over
thinking,
and above out of choice. Many
yeah,
of them don't. Some do. Some are amazing and some do, but many don't.
how can they learn everything? And then perhaps that's where specialties come in. Doctors are
Uh,
going to refer out to a nutritionist or refer out somewhere.
But again, it's everybody is working in the same model. So
Mm.
the model basically is that there is a drug to manage your symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we do it. We don't do it with diet. We don't do it with lifestyle. We don't focus on prevention. We focus on disease management or on
Yeah.
symptom management. That's it. So
Yeah.
that's the shortcoming of Western medicine. Finished. Like you can ask the questions, but it doesn't exist in the paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even if you go see a dietitian, the dietitian is taught the Western medical model, and they are, by law, they have
Mm-hmm.
to teach the food guide. They have to teach that. So, and they're involved in that paradigm as well. So they're helping you with your symptom and disease management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a much bigger conversation than that. And there's some really good dietitians out there, and there's some really crappy ones. So,
And you mentioned prevention. So it makes me think that functional medicine will take a different role in prevention.
well, so number one, functional medicine believes the body functions as a whole. So
Mm.
in the Western paradigm, it's become so specialized that
Yeah.
you somebody for your brain, somebody for your heart, somebody for your
Yeah.
muscle, somebody for your hormones, and they never talk to each other, and
Yeah.
nobody
That's what I was saying in
connect
terms of there'll be a referral out if there's something
always.
to address. There'll be
And
a referral out to someone
yeah,
else.
and even the gastroenterologist, your digestive system will tell you that the food you eat doesn't matter for many things. Gastroenterologist.
So tell me what your take is on that. Because
Because the paradigm is, go back to it. The paradigm is we medicate the symptom,
hmm,
right? If you're
now say
constipated,
a GI will say the food you eat doesn't matter. What will they say matters?
well, this is what your condition is. Too bad, so sad. Your
Ah, I
stomach.
see what you're
This is what we,
saying.
this is what we do for it.
They're
So,
not.
yeah, if you're constipated, eat more fiber or
Mm,
take a fiber laxative.
mm,
Doesn't always work.
mm,
Actually, sometimes it's quite detrimental. Right? But it's those types of things, right? If you have inflammatory bowel disease, so that's
mhm.
Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis, for some of them, they'll just put you on an immune suppressant. Well, it's an autoimmune condition or it's an immune condition. We'll just put you on an immune suppressant and stop your immune system from overreacting. It's not what you eat.
Mm. So you say,
So, number one, the body functions as a whole. What
mhm,
happens in one area impacts what happens in another area.
makes sense.
Number one.
That does
An
make sense.
imbalance in your gut can actually create a symptom in your skin. And we know this. We know that some foods that we eat give us like pimples or things, right? Like we know this. Or something going on in your brain can affect something going on in your gut, right? Or something going on with your hormone levels, which is quite relevant to women in our age, can affect, and we just had this conversation with Susie Cortez, so go back and listen to that podcast, but can
Mhm,
affect your sleep. It can affect your mood. It can affect your libido,
mhm.
right?
Of
Because you
course,
don't,
I don't think anyone would dispute that everything is interrelated. Just like you said, early childhood experiences, traumas, there have been big studies done, significant studies that early childhood trauma impacts obesity, even, for instance.
yes,
Let's just
yes,
take one example.
the studies are
Mhm,
there, but it
mhm,
hasn't translated or hasn't trickled down into the Western medicine model. That's the problem. It's
mhm,
not that we don't know, it's just not practiced.
mhm,
So you'll see your neurologist, and he'll tell you that you need to eat more fat for your brain. And then you'll see your cardiologist, and he'll tell you that you need to eat less fat because your cholesterol is too high, right? Now, why would a diet, just like logically, that's good for your brain be bad for your heart?
mm.
Vice versa.
Oh,
The body's
I
made that
love
way.
this example.
But there's a disconnect between the specialties. They do not have the bandwidth in their knowledge to actually question or work with these things. It's too much. It's too much. And then you have, then you know, you have the whole medical system of how we can sue people, and then you have your college, which tells you this is how you have to practice. This is all you're allowed to practice. And if you practice outside that scope, it becomes problematic. There's many cases of one of the biggest ones was a Tasmanian doctor. His name was Gary Fetke. And if you ever want to know about how our food guide came into being, look up his wife on YouTube. Her name is Belinda Fetke, Fettke, and she speaks amazingly about it. It will blow your mind. I'm not going to do that today, but I mean, I'm going to try blow your mind, but not with that.
Mm.
Um, he was a an orthopedic surgeon who spent his life amputating the legs of diabetic patients because that's what happens when you're diabetic. And he started counseling the patients on
Mhm,
improving their diets
mhm.
and managing their diabetes. And the Australian Dietitians Association sued him for practicing out of scope.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, there's another one. There's Tim Noakes, a professor from South Africa, similar stuff. There's doctors all over that you cannot go against your college for fear of losing your license. So there's problems. Anyway, back to functional medicine. Body functions as a whole,
Mhm.
and an imbalance in one area can create an imbalance in other areas. And imbalances start many years before you see symptoms, right? We know this. Alzheimer's doesn't wake up one day and arrive when you're 70. Alzheimer's starts when you're 20.
Tell
Cardiovascular
me,
disease doesn't just happen all of a sudden. It starts when
yeah.
you're much younger. But
Tell us more about that.
hang on, may I finish my thought? So from a Western medicine perspective, if you can only deal with the symptom, right, you're not dealing with anything that's happening 20 years before.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with what's going on with the symptom,
Yeah.
and that's it. And we don't even measure anything that could go wrong that's going on before. And I'm going to use a different example from Alzheimer's, if I may, simply because it's easier and people will understand because it makes sense. So type 2 diabetes. Everybody knows somebody who's struggling with type 2 diabetes. If you're not yourself, you know somebody who is. It's ravaging through our society right now. right? Type 2 diabetes is diagnosed officially when your HbA1c, it's called hemoglobin A1c, it's a blood marker, is above 6, right? If you are 5.9, you are pre-diabetic, but don't worry about it. If you're above 6, we start to worry. If your blood work was 5.2, if your hemoglobin was 5.2 and then 5.3 and then 5.5, yeah, you're tending towards diabetes, but you're fine now. So maybe just lose some weight. Literally, this is what goes on, right? But then the minute you're 6.2, okay, you're diabetic now. Now we can start with the medications. Now we can start with the symptom management. What is diabetes? Diabetes is when the glucose, the sugar in your blood, is too high and your body is no longer able to bring it down to a level that isn't going to cause damage over a long period of time. Okay. So what do we know in the functional medicine world? We know, and everybody has probably heard of a term called insulin resistance. And if you haven't, you might have heard of a hormone called insulin. And insulin is a fantastic hormone. We cannot live without it, which is why type 1 diabetics will die if they don't inject the insulin. And it's irregardless of their diet because they don't make insulin. Insulin is your transport and storage hormone. Insulin triggers growth in the body. Really important. So whenever we eat anything, and it needs to be transported from our bloodstream into our cells, insulin has to go to work. And insulin triggers the cell to begin producing energy by giving it nutrients so that the cell can do its stuff and grow. Insulin also triggers the growth. Very, very abbreviated thing. Insulin is very complicated. Now, insulin has to be in this perfect little Goldilocks zone for the body to function well. Too little insulin, type 1 diabetic. Too much insulin is incredibly inflammatory. And for all intents and purposes, every single chronic disease on the planet, so all of the ones you don't catch, all of them can be attributed to excessive insulin in the blood, consistent excessive insulin in the bloodstream. Really important because insulin will go up when you eat and then it comes down when you eat. Yeah.
So you're saying insulin, we tend to associate insulin with diabetes. You're saying insulin is much more,
much bigger, much bigger. But there's a but. When one of the biggest roles of insulin is to help us manage our blood sugar. So when you eat something that turns to sugar, and it doesn't need to be sweet in order to do that, it will turn to sugar, it becomes glucose in your bloodstream, your blood sugar goes up, insulin is immediately released to bring that blood sugar down because too much sugar in your blood will kill you quickly. It'll grab that extra sugar out and move it to wherever it needs to be moved, right? Or wherever it can be moved. Can is important here. So what happens if we're constantly raising our blood sugar, right? And I'm going to just use the easiest example. You're mainlining Coca-Cola all day. You're constantly, right? Insulin is high. It's trying to move the sugar into your cells. It's trying to move it into your muscles. It's trying to move it into your liver. There's many storage places that it can try and put this. A lot of those storage places are full. The easiest place to put it is in your fat cells because fat cells can grow, but easily, like fat cells grow easily. But eventually your cells get tired of listening to insulin, like, oh, insulin, stop freaking nagging me all the time. So they down-regulate their senses and they become less and less sensitive to the call of insulin. So you need more and more insulin to push the sugar where it belongs. Eventually your fat cells expand so much, right? And everybody's fat threshold is different. So your fat cells could expand to this point and you could still look fine or relatively fine. That this fat starts to spill out of the cells and into the bloodstream. And
like
this
literally, when you describe that,
yes. Literally. And if you've ever had a cholesterol test, triglycerides is in your blood.
Oh my
right?
God.
And we always have a little bit, but anyway, this fat goes into your bloodstream. It just becomes this cascade of awfulness, and
Mm,
insulin keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher. Eventually, you can't bring that blood sugar down anymore. So what
mhm,
happens is it creeps up and up and up and up, and then your HbA1c, which is a 3-month, it's a marker of your 3-month blood sugar management, basically. Your HbA1c is 6.5 and you're diabetic. But how long did that take to happen? It probably took years, years. So then you would think, okay, so why don't we monitor insulin? We don't. So if you went to your doctor and said, I want an insulin test, your doctor would look at you and say, why? You're not diabetic.
mm.
Because
And,
we can't manage there is no drug to manage insulin.
so that wouldn't fit the model.
There you
So,
go.
uh-huh.
There you
So
go.
you think everyone's don't you love
Most of
being
us,
tan?
yeah,
I think I'm
are
so
to some degree insulin resistant. But this is a functional medicine example because I can see this could be another podcast for us if you wanted. But from a functional medicine perspective, we don't just measure the thing that can be medicated. We measure the thing that can cause the thing that can be medicated, and
Mhm.
sometimes the thing that causes the thing. And sometimes the thing that causes the thing that causes the thing. So we measure so many different, if you went to your doctor and asked for standard blood work, it's about 20 different things. If you come to my clinic and you ask our doctor for blood work, it's
Mhm.
between 65 and 100.
Wow.
You can get that blood work done in the US.
Uh-huh.
It wouldn't be through your doctor, it would be through a private clinic, and there's ways to do that. And if anybody wants to know more about that, put questions in the comments, and I can definitely direct you somewhere better if you want to hear more about that. But my point is that we know long before your blood sugar is dysregulated that your insulin is starting to be dysregulated. So we
Mhm.
can do diet and lifestyle changes to manage the insulin to prevent you from ever getting diabetic. And that's where prevention comes in, right?
Mhm.
Know that there's certain markers for inflammation in the brain.
Mhm.
We can see those markers when you're 40. We can probably save a lot of your brain and when you're 60, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty, it's really neat and really amazing. So, we when we look at optimizing somebody's health, they don't always come to us because they're ill. Often they do, and they come to us when they've exhausted all the other options and
Mhm.
nothing
Mhm.
working. But they also come to us to say, how do I stay this healthy for the rest of my life?
I was going to
I
ask you
don't
that.
want to get sick. So
Mhm.
what do I need to do? So we can look at your individual markers. We can look at your genetic dispositions, and we can say, okay, there's some things going on here. Maybe we should do this, this, and this in order to balance that out. All right, you have this genetic predisposition, so we should probably take extra care
Mhm.
to manage whatever else it is that you're managing, right? So, and for women especially, we look at your hormone levels. Again, listen to Susie Cortez, although the reproductive hormones are incredibly important. We look at your thyroid, but not simply your TSH, which anybody who has thyroid problems knows. They get this measurement called thyroid stimulating hormone, and if
Mhm.
that's too high, they put you on a medication to bring it down. If that's high, and that would be hypothyroidism. And
Mhm.
hyperthyroidism, when that measurement is too low, I know it seems opposite, but it just is. There's a different medication. There's a different medication for that. But there's many reasons that your thyroid stimulating hormone could be dysregulated.
Mhm.
And we have different types of thyroid hormone in our bodies. Remember, this was thyroid stimulating hormone, not thyroid hormone. And they're using that to determine if your thyroid is working. But we have different levels of different thyroid hormones. Well, what if they're not converting? What if they're not talking to each other properly? What if they are converting, but the balance is way out? And that could be leading to a whole bunch of your symptoms, which is why, and I'm talking so fast because I want to get all this information in, which is why, though, often people who go on thyroid medications feel a little bit better, but not great. because they're not dealing with why the situation is happening in the first place. So from a functional medicine perspective, we're always asking why, why, why. What do we use as our markers? We definitely focus on your diet, right?
Mhm.
Your diet is your fuel. What you put in is what your input determines your output. If you
Mhm.
have a Lamborghini and you're using regular fuel in your Lamborghini, it's not going to
Mhm.
run the same as if you're using super premium ultra. It's just not, right? And so we need to determine what's your super premium ultra. And there are certain overriding principles that we use or that I use from a nutrition perspective. And I think we spoke about that a little bit in the nutrition questions. And then there's also personalization and customization that goes in with that. And that's not simply how your body responds to a food, it's also your lifestyle. It's also your expectations and your goals. Right? There's many factors that are involved. It's not simply here, follow the food guide. Mm-mm.
Mhm. No, it sounds like you would be very individualized.
At what I create customized
Yeah.
programs, literally customized.
Mhm.
We also use supplements because in our modern environment, our food doesn't provide us everything that we need. It
Mhm.
simply doesn't. Our soils are depleted, our
Huh.
animals are treated with hormones. It's just their food is depleted. So we use some supplements to help. We also use some supplements to support certain functions in the body. We use other lifestyle factors. Sleep is a big one. If you're not sleeping properly, nothing else is working.
Mhm.
And there's quantity, there's quality. We work on that. There's stress management, huge, huge, right? Then there's just the environment and toxicity in general. And that's part of the genetics, right? Some of us have a genetic a genetic SNP, something that isn't working properly called the MTHFR gene. And what that gene says is that we don't methylate properly. Methylate is the way that your body deals with toxins. So it's not simply detoxing, it's removing the toxins, it's dealing with extra metabolites, it's cleaning out your cells appropriately. And some of us don't do that properly. So you need to take specific types of supplements that your body can actually use to support these processes,
Mhm.
right? So just many different factors. And the expectation from our Western medicine perspective is I take a pill, my symptoms gone, I'm fine. And
Mhm.
functional medicine doesn't work that way. And people, it's tough, right? It might sound simple-ish, but it's very difficult because it takes commitment, it
Mhm.
takes work, it takes bucking the trend, and it can take months and
Mhm.
months things to balance out, depending on how long this has gone on for, how much damage is done. I'm not saying we can repair all the damage. Sometimes the things are just permanently damaged. They're simply, but we can definitely make things work better, right? But it takes time and it's hard. It's hard to sit with everybody and be different. And we've discussed that as well in other podcasts. We like to be part of a tribe and so there's many challenges, and that's part of what I do is I help people work through these challenges or implement many of our recommendations, both from my boss, our doctor, and of mine into real life, because it's easy if you're living on an island somewhere and can do like everything that you want. It's
Yeah.
much more difficult when you have a family and you have kids and you have this and you have that and you have a job, and I'm telling you to eat this amount and cook all your food at home, and it's like
I can see the level of support that is needed because it goes right
yeah,
back to what you were saying about Western medicine.
yeah,
There's nothing, it's fairly easy to just, like you say, go to a doctor, get a pill and take it. There's no work involved in that other than remembering to take the pill or dealing with side effects. But there's no work involved. And
I
it
have something
sounds
to say
like
to
part
that.
of this, we say that again?
I said I have something that I have to add to that. You said except for the
Go
side
for it.
effects, but guess what? There's a pill for the side effects.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I hear you. Oh, you're full of jokes today, Michal. Right, right. So now you have side effects. Now you take a pill for the side effects of the pill. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
give I can give
So
you oh, sorry, yeah, you finish and then I'll tell you.
no, I was just going to reiterate what you were saying in terms of the amount of support that you would be giving, because it's not just take the pill and that's it. Check back in 2 months' time how you're doing on it, because there there is responsibility and accountability that it sounds like each of your clients needs to take as well for taking care of themselves. But oh my gosh, how empowering to be doing this, because you've touched on sleep, eating, stress management, exercise, looking at your body holistically. So think of how amazing a person would feel just tackling those things. Even if we did it on any level
Yeah.
without understanding functional medicine, think about how tackling exercise, sleep, nutrition, enough water does for you, and now doing it at the level of now analyzing these markers, these 50,
Yeah.
60 different blood markers and other facets that you look at. It seems like I can see how it would create a recipe for really healthy living.
It does, but unfortunately, one of the things that has happened over many, many generations now is that we have been, for lack of a better term, pre-programmed to
Mm-hmm.
outsource the responsibility of our health to
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. So if you're feeling sick, you go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people, and it's much more prevalent in older generations, but you still see it a lot. Well, the doctor told me to, so I will. The doctor said, so I will. There's no question. You don't
Mm-hmm.
question the doctor. If the doctor says it's good for me, it's good for me.
I
Doesn't matter if it
definitely
makes
have,
you feel
I hear you, and I don't disagree. I definitely think there's a move towards advocating for oneself
yes,
and doing your own research and finding out more and making a determination yourself if what the doctor is saying
true.
is something you want to do. But it doesn't leave other options. If you don't like what the doctor's saying, there aren't other options.
Well, there are, but they're hard to find and they're expensive. Now, I will tell you,
Mhm.
oh, sorry, you
No, no,
said
no. I was going to say functional medicine would be another option, is just what I was going to
uh,
say.
that's why I prefaced what I call white coat syndrome with it's more prevalent in older generations as well.
Mm.
Because now with the internet, we can look things up all a bunch more. But a whole bunch of the information that we have access to is based on that paradigm and that model. It is so ingrained
Mhm.
into our world. It's crazy. It's
Mhm.
like it seriously, it's quite sometimes when I go out of my little echo chamber bubble, I notice how difficult it is to come to this space. And it's challenging on all the levels, socially, financially, right? Saying to your doctor no, because you have to see a different doctor and and it's interesting because naturopaths do a little bit of this. Osteopaths do a little bit of this. Homeopaths do a little bit of this. Chinese medicine do a little bit of this. Functional medicine really pulls it all together nicely into something that's quite actionable once you're able and willing to
Mhm.
put the action.
And probably given the information you need on how to implement it.
Well, and so this is where the difficult part comes as well, because if me or the doctor that I work with is telling you something that goes absolutely totally against everything you've ever heard, ever, it's hard. It's hard
Mm.
to simply trust and
Mhm.
go ahead, even if you've struggled and you know that the other thing doesn't work. And we've had
Mhm.
that change, you and I.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Change and familiarity. What you're
It,
familiar with, you will stick with.
yeah, and it's super interesting. Like,
Mhm.
um, as remember how we had spoken a little earlier in the conversation, I said the research is there, it just hasn't trickled down.
Mhm.
And that's very um it's tough because you can explain it to people, you can send them to the research, and you can send them to people talking about the research, but it's hard. Some things that we think we know are simply theories that have been repeated so many times that we believe them to be true. And a
What are
big
you referring
one that
to?
everybody knows is saturated fat causes heart disease. Saturated fat does not cause heart disease. It it's a lot more nuanced than that. Eggs will kill you. Eggs are full of cholesterol. They will kill you. Not true. And the research is clear on this, very, very clear, but it still hasn't trickled down into the Dietetics Association, into the Medical Association, nowhere. I'll never forget. One of my big aha wake-up moments was when I was struggling with my health and I went to see a doctor, and they put me on what I was in Canada at the time, standard Canadian diet. I was a good girl. I followed it to a T, to a T. And I went back to see the doctor and he said to me, and I was very young, your cholesterol's too high. You need to eat less fat and eat more whole grains. This is what the doctor told me. And I said, I can't eat less fat and I can't eat more whole grains because my entire diet is whole grains and no fat. And he looked at me and he said, I think you're not aware of where those things are creeping in.
What did you do? Did you
I
follow
never,
him?
I haven't seen a Western medical doctor since.
You trusted yourself.
Well, and it was a maybe one day I'll share my story in more detail, that part of my story.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of things that were the final straw, and that was one of them. It was the culmination of a lot of things adding up. It wasn't simply one event. But the solution to the problem, there was no lateral thinking in the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem was this. And if I said that's already been done, I'm lying.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so we've outsourced our health to we've outsourced our nutrition. How many of us eat out a lot or have packaged foods in our house a lot? And if you think about when we were young, it was significantly less. There was significantly less. And we have outsourced it all. And just because something says healthy on the label, people believe it. And you can buy that. You can buy that heart stamp, that heart healthy check is paid for. And people think, oh, okay, so I'm eating my Cheerios and they're heart healthy. No, they're not. They're not.
Oh, wow, Michal. So how do people know? How do people know then?
You don't. This is the conundrum that we're stuck in, because ever since our health advice changed dramatically, which was in the late 70s, early 80s, as a society, what's happened to us? We are bigger, fatter, sicker, and on more medications than we have ever been ever before. And they're still beating the same drum with the nutrition stuff. They're still beating the same drum with the medications. There's nothing has changed from that perspective. I mean, things have changed slightly, but nothing dramatic enough to cause a shift. And there's many reasons for this, and there's lots of financial incentives. I mean, an entire industry was built around the dietary shift of the 1980s, where they increased carbohydrate to 65% of our calories. And so there's entire industries that are built on this. Industries, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Now, it's not just people making money, it's the government. There's a lot. And before you run and call me a conspiracy theorist, go watch Belinda Fettke.
How much has functional medicine grown? So could you describe how we have done how we have followed Western medicine all these years? How much has functional medicine grown over these years? Like, I guess not that I expect you to know the answer, but my question is coming from a place of I'm wondering what the future holds, if there's going to be a move away from Western medicine.
Well, so one of the promising things that you said to me is that more people are taking advocacy for their own health, right? Which is wonderful. I live in I will admit it, and I live in a little echo chamber bubble, right? I am surrounded all the time by professionals
Yeah.
who do a lot of what I do. We do it in
Yeah.
slightly different ways. We might
And
have
who have a mindset of holistic health, holistic
all the time.
body-mind
Even
connection.
even my clients, by the time they come to me,
Hmm.
right, they kind of sort of know what they're coming.
Ah, oh, that makes sense
Now,
because why would they come to you to begin with?
right. So that's it's a challenging question for me to answer because I often think, oh my goodness, it's growing so much. And then I step
Hmm.
out of that and I look around, I'm like, no, it's not. But I will say
Yeah.
there's definitely more awareness than
Hmm.
there ever was. And no, it's not growing as quickly as any of us would like.
Mm.
Um, but let's be realistic. Change, especially when it comes to public health,
Hmm.
is really, really slow. Even if you look at what's going on in the US right now, and there's quite a bit of shifting and changing going on in the public health sphere,
Hmm.
you'll see a lot of people saying it's not enough. It's not enough. And no, it isn't enough.
Hmm.
But you can't make huge sweeping changes in public health simply by clicking your fingers. They did that once and it hasn't turned out well,
No, no, that it would be way too, yeah, the
right? It
systems
hasn't
would
turned
have to
out well.
change
So,
policies. Hmm.
yeah, so it's and the government doesn't like to backtrack. The government, so what you'll notice, and I'll just say this as an example, the a very original food guide, the very, very original dietary guidelines had caps on saturated fat. There is no more cap on saturated fat. But there was no headline, there was no anything because the
Uh,
government doesn't like to backtrack. It's just not there anymore. So,
so can I ask one more thing that I'm just wondering what our audience might be thinking is when someone sees comes to decides to go to functional medicine instead of
yeah,
the concept of go to a doctor, get a pill, and then you'll probably go and have a checkup, a follow-up appointment 6 weeks, 2 months later, that kind of schedule.
yeah,
With functional medicine, how does that work and how long? And again, I realize it's so individualized that you may not be able to give a specific
yeah.
answer, but I wonder, I'm still curious how long someone sees a functional medicine person. How
Yeah.
do I say this?
You can say practitioner, you can say doctor
Practitioner, thank you.
or doctor, right? Because like my boss is an MD. She is not all functional medicine practitioners are MDs, and there's
Uh-huh.
always going to be a need for Western medicine because functional medicine
Right.
doesn't really deal with the acute stuff.
I love how you describe that distinction. It makes so much sense, like the
Yeah.
acute versus these chronic conditions that have so many variables. I love that distinction. It makes so much sense.
And as for a length of time, I would say
Hmm.
it's a lifetime commitment.
Mm,
That doesn't mean that you'll be seeing your personal practitioner every week or every month or every 2 months, but there will be consistent and constant check-ins, especially
mm,
if you're on certain supplementations, if you're on hormones, but you also want to check your blood work. You want to
mm,
make sure because life happens and things change. And
mm-hmm,
simply because everything is balanced today doesn't mean in 2 years' time, even if I could continue with exactly the same lifestyle that I'm continuing now, that
mm-hmm.
it's going to be balanced then because
Well,
things
that's
change.
consistent with going for an annual exam,
Yeah.
annual
So
checkup.
it's
Hmm.
a lifetime commitment. I would say generally I would look at it at about a 1 year average-ish to to start to get a handle on things.
Mm,
You can probably get a pretty good handle on things in 3 months.
mm,
But then there's some trial and error that's involved. There's a little bit of monitoring. There's a little bit of adjusting, right? There's things. So unlike where you go to your doctor and then it's a 6 week follow-up and you're done, this is
mm.
more of from a mindset perspective, it's more of a lifetime commitment. So
Yeah, so then when you say lifetime, it makes me think seeing it more in terms of a mindset shift and just a healthy lifestyle change. Because it's a very health oriented model is what is the way I'm hearing it. Very health oriented versus diagnosis,
well,
di
versus
dysfunction.
illness management. So I would say,
Hmm.
right, like so it's illness management, right? what it is. And it's just, remember how I said we can find out a long time before in advance if things are going to go wrong. So by making sure that it's a lifetime commitment and doing your follow-ups and getting your regular blood markers checked and discussing these with your practitioner, you can, oh, is something starting to go wrong? All right, let's manage that before things get out of hand.
Before you
Right?
even feel it.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow, Michal, this has been so, so interesting. I love that I've learned more about functional medicine. I'm sure our viewers, our listeners will also have learned something. I would love to hear what you all think listening to Michal, what questions you have. I'd be curious to know how much you all knew about functional medicine
Yeah.
before today. Michal, is there anything else you want to say before we say
Sure.
goodbye?
If anybody wants some more information or does want to find out how to work with me or how to work with my boss or has questions about somebody in their area, uh, you can reach out to me through the links that I have below, through my website or through my Facebook page. And I'm happy to get on a quick call with you, to discuss things, to answer some short, brief questions if we need. And also, just on another note, if anybody wants to get hold of Jodi or is looking to optimize their relationship or find the love that they deserve, her links are down there too. And you can also leave comments and questions. Remember to like and subscribe and share this with somebody who you think is interested in it, because that helps us spread the word, and let us know what else you'd like us to talk about.
Love it. Thanks, Michal.
Thanks, Jodi. And until next time, everybody.
Till next time. Bye.